morning, everyone. I was dreading coming in at 9:45 and just waking everybody up. I think the team here has done an excellent job of waking you all up and getting you into conference mode. Although the title says how Plum Goodness is driving growth by understanding the audience and personalizing the experience, my attempt here is to also share the challenges we are facing. It's not as if we have cracked it. In fact, we are very, very early in the journey. So this is sort of an honest admission of where we are. And equally, I thought, given the mix of people in the audience and the kind of insights that we can get here, it will be good to sort of bounce off some challenges and some thoughts and sort of get you all thinking as to what it is to be in the shoes of a brand which is trying to do D2C, which is trying to do retail, which is trying to do a bunch of things, which is true of most brands today. And a few more disclaimers before I start. I have been steeped in the beauty industry for a very, very long time. And so some of this may be very high context to some of you. Equally, some of this may sound too basic to some of you because I had to, put together stuff that sort of everybody understands. So I can't assume that everybody has context. So please bear with me if some of it sounds too basic or too esoteric. So, but I think the idea is to just bounce ideas off. Bounce challenges off, bounce sort of situations off, and see if we can think of something and make good use of the time that we have. I'll try and close in about 20 minutes more, so we'll have about 7-8 minutes or maybe 10 minutes for Q&A. This is what we're going to talk about: who we are, what we do, what challenges are we solving, how we understand our audience, what personalization levers exist, and the interesting bit is the last bit, which is what we wish existed, which doesn't exist today, and of course Q&A at the end. I won't take too much time to talk about who we are and what we do, other than to say that we have 3 brands. Plum, which is a flagship brand. It started off in 2014, perhaps India's first D2C beauty brand. The word D2C did not exist back then. It was purely a matter of chance that it sort of was born online, but it was always born with the consumer in mind, upwardly mobile consumer in mind, the aspiring consumer in mind. And vegan is something that we are best known for. Plum Body Lovin', I think you have a shower gel that must have been delivered to your rooms. That's Plum Body Lovin'. It started off in 2020 as a sub-brand in bath and body, doing extremely well. And Fi, which is I think relevant to the majority of the audience here, which is for guys, often an ignored segment in the beauty and personal care industry. So these are the 3 brands that we run. All of them are on the same platform of clean products that deliver. Just some imagery about what we are. Our core promise is to delight and deliver at prices that don't cost the earth. And this is just some visuals of Body Lovin'. I won't spend too much time here. We've been rooted to our values since 2014, customer delight, respect, transparency, and sustainability, and we are members of 1% for the planet. 1% of every sale goes towards the environment, and that's been the case since we began. What's interesting and perhaps relevant to this crowd is that we have a multi-channel presence. We're not just a digital brand, although we started off as only digital. Since 2017, we've been expanding into core distribution. We've sort of topped that off since the last 1 year by opening our own exclusive outlets. So what you see here, the laser is here. Okay. What you see here is a sort of what we call an assisted outlet. What you see here is an unassisted outlet. What you see here is a picture of our exclusive outlet. We have 10 such in India, more coming up. And we are also present in almost all the key marketplaces in e-commerce. And in terms of such manned outlets, we have about 1,300 plus, and such unassisted outlets, we have 13,000 plus, touching almost 300 towns and cities in the country, including in Dehradun. So we've sort of been on this journey of expanding into retail for a while now. This is again just to set context of what I'm about to talk about, this is the most interesting part according to me, which is what challenges are we solving? As a beauty brand, which is in an extremely cluttered space, what are the challenges that someone like us faces? The first one is that And we'll go through details in each one of these. The first one is this, our consumer set is extremely diverse. India is as diverse a country as it gets anyway. And people are on this journey of beauty and personal care, at various stages. So with extremely diverse habits and attitudes. The second one is, which is something I obsess over and I keep discussing with Abhishek over a lot, which is that our consumer funnel is not linear. I think no consumer funnel today is a linear funnel. Back in the days when people used to see a TV ad, oh gosh, I got no awareness. Now I go see a sample in the shop, I get some consideration. It's there in front of me in the retailer, I buy, purchase. Life was simple, linear. It no longer is simple and linear. It's a bouncing path, as I call it, towards purchase and loyalty, which is one of the biggest challenges to solve for. The third is, the evolving nature of habits and attitudes. One thing is to be diverse. The second is how rapidly it is evolving. And what was true 2 years ago does not hold today in the skincare industry. When I started out in 2014, brands used to be built over 15 years, 20 years. Today, brands are built over 2 years, or even less. So that means the consumer habits and attitudes are evolving very rapidly. And of course, this is something I discussed with a lot of you yesterday, is the high level of clutter and competition, extremely high retailer power, because the clutter on the retail side is not as much. The clutter on the brand side is very high. Therefore, retailers have very high power. And consumer fatigue at some level, with like, where did I last see this? Which brand spoke about this? There's a lot of the haze that develops in the consumer mind because there's a lot of communication that's being thrown at her. So these are the challenges, and I'll just give a flavor of some of these, right? This diversity, I just wanted to point out certain aspects of diversity, and this is by no means an exhaustive list. How diverse can you get in this country, right? These are the parameters by which people express their diversity or are diverse, exist in their diversity in this country. So, it goes all the way from what language they speak, what skin type they have, what age they do, and that also changes over time. Your skin type changes over age, and what kind of brand loyalty do they have? Who does she trust? Does she trust an influencer? Does she trust a retailer? What is her attitude towards beauty? There are those who are absolutely minimal in their approach. I don't use too many products, to somebody who's like a complete diva, has to have a 11-step regime. All of these people coexist in this country. So when I'm putting out a piece of communication, I'm not sure who I'm reaching. So the diversity in this audience is absolutely stunning. And this is by no means a complete list of things. There's far more that goes into it. Now the question is, how can I have a product? How can I have a communication that speaks to this diversity? So this is the first big challenge that all beauty brands have to solve for. The second is that the funnel doesn't exist. It's a controversial statement to make. And when I mean that the funnel doesn't exist, when I say the funnel doesn't exist, what I mean is that my visualization of the funnel is of a ball, not of a conical funnel. The ball is very bouncy. People are bouncing inside various parts of the ball. And somewhere they hit purchase in that ball. I don't know at what point they're going to hit purchase. For example, there are these live shopping apps where influencers curate products they like. The person may be seeing it for the brand for the first time through an influencer. She clicks buy and she buys it. The order may be routed to my backend, but at the end of the day, it's the influencer who's selling it. Now, what do you call it? Top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel? It's all becoming one ball, right? My retailer is my source of what is tried and tested, and a lot of people who, for example, the Nikas of the world, are responsible for brands becoming popular in India. People discover brands on these retailers. So again, bottom of the funnel becoming top of the funnel in terms of discovery. Influencers, I trust them, they give them genuine reviews. I loved what I saw, it was an impulse buy, people are open to experimentation. So the point I'm making through all these examples is, it is no longer a simple case of, hey, I created certain awareness, I put an influencer to drive consideration, I ran a 30% off banner on a marketplace to get purchase, and I ran a CRM program, therefore I'm getting loyalty. So if you think of life in such a sort of linear way, I think it's suboptimal. I think we are struggling, to be honest, to sort of characterize this funnel and to, I don't even know what to call it for the time being, we'll still call it a funnel, to characterize this funnel and sort of be part of the consumer journey in a capital efficient way. It's very difficult, we are trying a bunch of things, some things work, some things don't. So given the diversity that we saw, it's all quite challenging, but it's all very exciting and intellectually stimulating, always. Rapidly evolving habits and attitudes. Again, this will be a little bit heavy on the category side, so please stay with me. Hair masks as a category did not exist 10 years ago. For us in hair care, this is our largest category. People had not heard of hair masks. Even today, a large portion of the population would not have heard of or used hair masks. SPF in lip balms was an alien concept. It is now almost table stakes. Fastest growing category in skincare, you'll be surprised it is actually skin serums. It is not face wash or moisturizer or night cream, right? It almost did not exist 10 years ago. Suddenly in the last 2 years, it has become the category which is the largest and fastest growing. And for us, it is like our second largest category in a matter of 1 year. It's insane the amount of innovation that is being driven in this category. People used to characterize products by the fragrance in the product. Today, people are moving towards fragrance-free skincare. There are consumers who just give us a bad time saying like, why did you add fragrance in this product? And I was like, hang on, you guys are the ones who said, I want this fragrance and that fragrance in the product. Now they're telling me I don't want fragrance in the product. So again, the pace at which some of these challenges, attitudes are evolving is quite challenging. From one fairness cream for everything, which was, I think, a 20-year ago scenario in this country, to a 3-step, cleansing, toning, moisturizing regime. Suddenly the K-beauty guys came in, I think in 2016, 17, 11-step and God knows how many steps beauty regime. We're today back to a 4-step cleansing, toning, serum and moisturizer regime, which seems to be trending right now. So for a brand to sort of traverse this up and down of people moving to more categories, coming down, adding something else, it's again, the pace of this evolution is something which is like the third challenge that we spoke about. Lastly, and this is something all of you are familiar with, given the multitude of brands that all of you are dealing with, the number of brands has multiplied, it's almost exponential. The number of retailers has more or less remained the same, which means more retailer power. And offline shelf space, at the end of the day, is a finite physical commodity that has not increased with the same pace, cannot increase at the same pace as the number of brands which is increased. Even online, we may think it is an infinitely elastic sort of catalog. At the end of the day, consumer gets tired beyond the first page. So if you look at the first 2 pages of an Amazon or an ICA as the shelf space, that's limited. You can't accommodate more than what you can accommodate there. So again, there's a lot of clutter and competition. Access to all parts of the value chain has been democratized. What I mean by that is access to manufacturing, access to R&D, access to packaging, access to advertising, access to distribution, access to warehousing, last mile. It's all been democratized, which is only making the clutter competition problem worse. It's tough to say where this will go. Are all these small brands going to coexist? Are they going to consolidate? No one knows. It's all being played out. Exciting times. From a consumer point of view, however, this was the industry point of view. The consumer point of view is that the consumer is bombarded, as I said earlier, at every stage of our journey towards purchase and retention. So the big challenge, therefore, for all of us to think about is to say, how do I stand out in this clutter and this competition, and where channel power is sort of not gone down at least. A little bit more specific about how we understand our audience and where our data sources lie and how we decide. Right? We have offline data sources, which is our beauty advisors, the person that you saw standing in one of those photographs. We have retailers, we have distributors, we have our sales teams, we have sales analytics running on top of that data. We do consumer focus groups. We even catch hold of people in our office building and sort of ask them stuff. So if you are in a hurry to do some consumer research. So that's sort of the offline data sources. Online data sources is very interestingly, social media is a very rich source of slightly biased, I would say, but still an important source of data. How people are responding to our ads in terms of their comments, in terms of their click-through rates, in terms of the engagement, how people are responding to our products being spoken about by influencers, again an interesting source of data. Some of this is very tangible, measurable, Excelable data. Some of this is softer. So one has to have the ability to capture all of these. Reviews on platform, reviews off platform, very, very rich source of qualitative and quantitative data. Our customer support from the time we began has been our biggest source of insights. People call our customer support or message them, whether it's on social media, whether it's on email, saying, I want this product, I want this, why don't you launch it in this size, why don't you launch this fragrance free, why don't you launch it in this variant? Some of the best ideas have come from our customer support talking to customers. Search trends, which a lot of you are familiar with, repeat purchase trends. I can go on and on. So in online, there's of course a lot more data available. There's a lot more sort of templatization there. There's a lot more quantification possible. What we really need to do, and I'm not saying we do this, we need to get to the point of doing it, which is to build an analytics engine which is able to take in all of these multiple streams of data and convert it into insights that the business can use. This is utopia. This is like not there yet, but we are doing in small ways, in our own ways. We're trying to make sense of all the data that is being thrown at us. But I think we are very clear that the future, given what we saw in terms of the evolving nature of the consumer, the clutter that is there, the habits and attitudes that are changing, the only way to be sane and sort of live a peaceful life in this highly cluttered market is to make sense of data, no matter where it is coming from. Moving on to the kind of data that we get, just to show some light on what kind of data that we get. Category A has been going category. Each of these may be sounding very simple, but if you really dig deeper and double click on some of these, you do get insights. And I think what we are learning internally is it's not important to just say that category A is going faster than category B. So for example, if body is growing faster than skincare on a certain channel, that doesn't mean I just go and sell more body on the channel. We need to really ask the whys of it and double click and understand. And that is where the inciting part starts. These are just some of the examples of data. Some of this may be too obvious to you. So I won't spend too much time on this. What are the personalization levers that we have? We have a lot of levers. Again, as I said with the analytics part, it's not as if we are leveraging everything we have got. Similarly, when it comes to personalization, there's a lot that can be done, but there's a lot which is the next part, which we cannot do because things don't exist where we want to be doing those. As I said, we are just getting started on personalization. I broke it down into prospecting, on-channel, point of sale, and CRM. How can you personalize the customer experience basis what you learn of her behavior offline as well as online. So again, segmentation, targeting, some of this is already happening. So it's not as if everything is rocket science, but part of the new things that are emerging are around content variations, the length of the format, the language of the format, whether they want sound on, sound off, whether they want subtitles. Those are the kind of personalization that are possible now. I hope more of it is possible in the future, where I'm able to tailor the creative to the kind of customer I'm talking to. On channel, it is easier in terms of data, especially if it's our own channel, exposed versus fresh audience, range versus single product communication, landing page customization, content based on geography. Some of this is already happening. Some of this we need to get started on. Some of this the industry needs to get started on. Customized offers, bundles, options on products, for example, fragrance product, fragrance-free product. My dream has always been where a customer shows up on a page and she's asked a few questions, and not in terms of infinite personalization, but finite personalization of the product she would like to take back. It's possible in an online world. It's just not been, I think we've had V1s of those exist. Those brands did not do too well, unfortunately, which personalize the entire product and print your name and give it to you. But I think a V2 of it with somewhat watered down personalization can still work, is my belief. CRM, again, CRM is sort of the king of personalization in terms of what is called a segment of one and, micro level databases which I can craft better offerings for the customer. This is something where I think a lot of brands are doing a good job of trying to learn your purchase history and making CRM communication more relevant for you. I think the up funnel is more challenging because the data is not as great. So here's the sort of wish list from a brand point of view, which is what we wish existed, or what are our pain points. Data integration from offline to online. Again, The challenge here, if I again were to just double click on this particular point, is the gathering of data itself is non-standard. Imagine sort of 300 towns, different languages, people making errors. So how do we automate the entire system that the data flow is seamless? Some of the larger brands have done a better job than some of the smaller brands at this. But here again, I think we don't need like some billions of dollars of tech investment here. Some of this can be really smartly solved. Creative creation is a big bottleneck from a internal resource point of view. I never have enough designers or video editors or whatever I need. So if we can figure out a way of smartly automating creatives, I've seen some startups do this. I wish there was more and there was more sort of capability developing around this. But this is some black box that never seems to have enough capacity. Third is seamless and smarter integration of social content onto brand platform. I feel very sad when my team spends hours together creating a reel, which gets some 6,000 views and 1,000 likes, and that's the end of it. Like hours of work gone in a few seconds of social media, and it's good content. It's not just fun content. It's good content. So I wish there was a way to more seamlessly integrate some of this content onto, let's say, our brand.com. Retail is currently operating very much in a silo. If there is a way for us to, this is truly omni-channel if we're able to get the online experience into retail. It's still operating in its own world. People have tried various things, but I think we still need the V2s and the V3s happening here. V1 is not great enough for the consumer. Ability to run, this is very specific. Unlimited virtual bundles, we struggle with the fulfillment of virtual bundles, with the fulfillment of, this is very specific to a brand.com scenario. I think the Amazons of the world do a much better job at this than some of the brands. And lastly, perhaps sort of feeding into that, our version of the funnel or the ball is an integrated listening. Today our listening is sporadic, it is patchy, it depends on people a lot. If there is automated, intelligent, integrated listening, which can feed into that data funnel automatically, again, this is like a ultimate dream. If something like this can be crafted, it's going to help brands leverage this much better and craft offerings which can sort of make the brands more relevant to what the consumers are seeking, which itself is changing as we saw. So in a changing sort of morphing environment, you can't have static ways of collecting data. You also have to be intelligent about it, and that's I think where the gap today exists. So that's really all I had to speak about, and we still have about 7.5 minutes left, so I'll sort of be happy to take any questions that are there.
All right, thank you very much, Shankar. But on that note, as mentioned, yes, we'll open the floor for questions. I'm going to request you all to also introduce yourself before directing the question.
Hi, I'm Pyara Singh Gambhir. I lead mid-market advertising for Paytm Ads. You mentioned that you need, a wish list is a simpler offline to online integration of data, right? What is the complex version right now that you see, and what are the, how do you do it right now? Is the question.
See, part of it is rudimentary, so bear with me. There's a QR code on the pack, which I expect the consumer to scan, and then there's poor connectivity in the store, so it's probably being very patchy in terms of how it is showing her. That QR code is again leading to a static content page. It is perhaps not been updated with the latest social media content that I put out yesterday. So the issue is that QR code seems to be one sort of gateway from the offline into the online. I can put QR code on the shop sort of shelf or on the pack or whatever. On the pack itself, inside the pack you could do stuff that people engage on. But the issue is it's not smooth for the consumer, and not everyone is QR code savvy. And not everyone, I don't even know what language she wants to see it in, and so on and so forth. So today that is where it is. As you can see, it's very rudimentary. I can't even imagine what the future can look like. Really smart tech brains are needed there, but I think it's needed. It's two different worlds existing today.
Sure. I asked this because as Paytm, right, because QR-led app, and I think we've really taught the country to scan QRs. Offline to online is something that we dearly work on and as a solution. So I think the answer there is when a person is scanning QR, you should be able to identify who that person is, because your
Correct.
dependency right now is that person will come and then tell you who they are.
Correct.
Right? So I think a lot of work can be done there.
Yeah, yeah. I think again, this related point is in retail, and I was discussing this with somebody yesterday, in retail, people are loath to share data for some reason. In online, they seem to be sharing their entire family history and what else. But in retail, if I ask them even for a phone number, they say, no, I don't want to share. So I don't know where that hesitation is coming in from, unless and until, there is if there's a photo, phone number, auto log that happens, and et cetera, as long as it doesn't freak people out, if I'm able to personalize in retail without freaking them out, I think that's a great way to
I think
tailor-made.
Without sounding salesy, but we do have mini apps as a solution.
Okay.
Hi, morning. My name is Arjun. I'm from matrimony.com. I head marketing over there. So thanks for the presentation. I could resonate with a lot of things over there. One point that I wanted your thoughts on, since you were talking about this funnel aspect,
right,
and the whole ecosystem moving from a linear to a non-linear.
Right.
So even I face similar challenges, and being in matrimony, we also have, just the way you were talking about your audiences, different flavors, different types and all that.
Right.
One issue that I have not been able to put my head around is on this whole content marketing or management piece. Different people have different ways of discovering brands or evaluating brands, So, and there is so much of fragmentation which is happening on digital. I might be going on Google search, or, someone might be getting influenced by something happening on Instagram and all that. So formats are there, platforms are there, content types are there. How do you, what's the strategy that you follow for content marketing, given that you have such a diverse audience to cater to along with your products?
I mean, I'll be lying if I told you we knew what we are doing.
I'm glad to hear that, so that we are in the same boat then,
no,
to some extent.
Yeah, a lot of it is changing as we speak. Abhishek here leads digital for us, and you should catch up with him, for the details on what we do. But it is a challenge, and I think the first step is to recognize this, that it is not what we think it is, that people are interacting. They don't know which part of the organization is pushed this to them, right? They don't know if the performance marketer has pushed this to them, or an influencer has pushed it, or the brand, some top has pushed it to them. They are just looking at content from the consumer lens. I think the most important thing is to solve for the consumer point of view, which platform is serving what need for her, and therefore what would she like to see. And if I'm able to layer on more personalized approach as to what has she bought before when she's seeing my ad, which is often not easy or possible, then it is possible to, otherwise it's an indeterminate problem today, to be very honest. Other than solving for what we understand of the consumer, there is very little systematically that is available. Of course, there are platforms which give you more data in terms of in-market audiences and purchase behaviors and so on and so forth. But the core question of, is this top of funnel or is it bottom of the funnel? I think we should stop asking that question. This is a discussion I've been having internally also, that it is the consumer, she is seeing a communication from the brand, she may or may not buy from you today, but okay, so you may run your offer ads to people who have already seen your ad, that's something all of us do. That's fine, but I think the rest of the funnel is all very hazy. So other than broad categorization is difficult to, it's a struggle.
Yeah, thanks.
We have room for one more question. We'll take one question right there and we'll come back to you, sir.
Hi.
Hi.
So maybe it's not a marketing question, but it's more product. You spoke of some of the very interesting products which you figured and this become like your marquee product.
Right.
So what goes in terms of figuring the trend? What do you do about it? And I just want to understand more of that.
So part of the answer is in that slide where I spoke about social media, customer support, or sources of data, right? That offline and the online, that bit where I spoke about. What we currently have is a very, for lack of a better word, human way of looking at the data. It's not a machine-driven way of looking at the data. It's a very human way of looking at the data, where we visit market, we speak to people, we have our WhatsApp groups and Instagram groups just overflowing with things that people are sharing. of this is what I saw, this is what I saw, this is what I read, this is what somebody is talking about in the US, this is what something's happening on TikTok which we don't get exposed to here. So it is a lot of just human to human sharing and inciting with people responsible for converting those insights into what in a Unilever view is called the innovation funnel. We populate the ideas in that funnel basis the insights that people see. And at the idea stage, we don't filter anything out. It's only when it gets into resource consumption that we say, okay, let's not pursue this, does not look big enough. But it's everywhere. Social media is a big piece. Foreign markets is another big piece because they're always leading us in terms of innovation, sadly. Retail is another big insight driver because they are the ones who are physically closest to the consumer. So these are some of the, it's not very hard-coded, which is what I wanted in my wish list. That part of this should be more intelligent and automated, but right now it's very human.
Hi, this is Vaibhav from Wadi. So, this is more on the brand side. I wanted to understand that, all the beauty brands today are, organic, vegan.
Correct.
So, how do we differentiate for the next 2 years? How would beauty brands differentiate from the regular claims that are being done?
I think some of these claims are now table stakes, as you said, right? Natural, organic, vegan, clean, animal cruelty free, whatever. And some of these are even, the funny part is some of this is even regulatorily mandated. You can't be doing animal testing in India. So not tested on animals is no longer a differentiated claim. It is a necessary claim. It's legally required. It will be illegal if you didn't do it. So, therefore, from a consumer, I think what matters is what the consumer thinks. Our understanding is that, again, there are segments of consumers who respond to claims differently. There are people who can tell that this is not what it is, and I know exactly what organic is. That's a very, very small set. The bulk of people are what, in our study, are called feel-gooders. They just feel good, and I think most of us also fall in that bracket. You feel good when you see something with a haldi or something with a green tea or something with an aloe in it. You don't necessarily deep dive into what percentage does it have, was it organically farmed, etc., etc. The evolved audience is a very, very, very small set. So it's really the feel-gooders who are forming the bulk of the market. What we are talking to at Plum is people who are one step above the feel-gooders, but not the ones who are what we call the skintellectuals, who know everything about everything. That's a very small set. So we are talking to somebody in between, right? And therefore, for us, that differentiation comes from talking enough science that gets the segment in between, what we call the aspiring upgraders, excited, but does not alienate the feel-gooders also. I also cannot be talking only the feel-gooder language because I'll alienate this segment. I think the short answer, therefore, is depending on which segment you're talking to, that might change. There are brands in skincare which talk right to the intellectuals. You and I will not even understand what they're talking about, right? Because they're talking in that language to them. So that's, I think, it depends on which segment you want to play in. But scale exists, of course, in the feel-gooder segment.
Thank you.
All right, so we have room for one last question. Okay, yes.
Hi, I'm Harika from PhonePe. You started off your presentation saying that there's no one-size-fits-all consumer product, right? And probably the natural answer to that sounds like personalization, which, as you rightly pointed out, did not work out for a lot of brands when they started. What do you think went wrong over there, and what makes you think V2 will be successful? And even if it is successful, do you think personalization in terms of products is a scalable opportunity for a lot of brands?
Again, it's an outside-in view. I don't know what exactly they saw. In my view, somewhere I think they were, just going back to the previous answer, the bulk of the market, the scale does not exist in personalization today, in the form that it was conceptualized and delivered. It appealed to a very, very small set of people who are very curious about what goes on. Most people, it's a high involvement purchase decision, but it's a low involvement activity. You're wanting to rush and get things done and move on to the day starting off, right? So you're not going to spend a lot of time trying to we are not in that space in this country. If there are very few people doing that. I think The second part, what might work in the future, it's again crystal ball gazing, I don't know if it will work, is really coming back to this bulk of the segment, right? They may want to switch between fragrance and fragrance-free, just taking that example, depending on this. They may want to switch between a light version and a heavy version depending on weather, for example, right? They may want to shift between liquid version and a solid version depending on, you know, the time of the year, for example. So those kinds of things which are driven by real demand-driven consumer needs are likely to work, which also thankfully makes it less complex than doing an infinite array of possibilities of personalization. It's finite. There are only 2 options, or maybe there are 3 options. And I think we do like it when there are 3 options. We always, when you go buy clothes, right, do you have different designs in the color, or do you have different colors in the same design? So you don't want infinite options, you get confused. So I think having finiteness of options tailored to a segment that has scale, in products that have scale, I think that is perhaps the answer, but as I said, neither do I know what went wrong. I'm here also, I am sort of guessing for the future.
All right. Well, on that note, I've been informed that we are out of time for this session. So I'm going to request our members of the audience who have further questions to please connect with Mr. Shankar offline. But that being said, can we have a round of applause for that very, very insightful session? And I'm going to request Shiny to please present a token of gratitude to our speaker as well, Mr. Shankar Prasad.